first time in forever, Apple made some camera adjustment that really made this phone different from last year. And to find out how good the zoom camera really is, you gotta compare it to the best out there. Today I want to see how close iPhone 15 Pro Max is to a pro camera setup that's worth about $5,000. Hey, Steven is here, and today you will learn about the iPhone 15 Pro Max, its raw photography and video capabilities. And during this video, I will be using some accessories with this phone, like this cage from SmallRig, which will come in handy for image stabilization test, and so much more. And thank you SmallRig for providing this cage and sponsoring today's epic camera battle. Now let's unbox it together. There are many cool things inside. The cage comes in this smooth green color with a signature. Then there is this magnetic mount and VND filter, and two quick release handles for horizontal or vertical filming. And they will come in super handy further in the video when filming in cold weather when wearing gloves. Both handles have Allen wrench inside, and one has the remote trigger button. Now you see, this is the complete setup I will be using against the Pro camera. But if you want to use a cage with another phone, let's say Samsung Galaxy, there's this universal cage which I think might be a better fit for some, since you can use it even with your protective phone case on and it still supports all these handles and mounts. And as for the Pro zoom setup, I will be using this Sony 70-200 G Master telephoto zoom lens paired with two cameras. Yeah, you heard it right, I might need two cameras actually to outcompete the iPhone rig. It will be Sony 7 Mark IV, which is an amazing hybrid photo camera, and for video and image stabilization tests, I will be using the latest Sony ZV-1 full frame camera, which is simply put something like Sony FX3 cinema camera that's worth $4,000, but it's in a more affordable body. And this will be super important in order to compete with my iPhone 15 Pro Max. Now with that said, let's see how the iPhone performs against the Pro zoom setup in the photo department. Let's go outdoors. Let's see which photos are better, and I'm gonna be taking photos in RAW mode on the iPhone, so let's see if you can spot the difference and tell them apart. Let's go. Keep in mind, the quality difference will be more apparent on bigger monitor or TV, so if you're watching this video on the phone, it will be probably more challenging for you to guess the camera right. Even though they are more or less similar in terms of sharpness, however, there is one thing that can give away the iPhone when compared to a more advanced and bigger sensor set, and it is the depth of field. See how the image has the separation between the foreground and the background on the Pro setup, and it creates the perception of depth in the frame, while the iPhone 15 Pro Max captures everything in focus. And now let's do the video test on the same location. I will start recording on the iPhone and starting recording on the full frame setup. Now let's see if you can spot the difference between these two. Maybe you will notice it too, that the iPhone image without log turned on is a little bit too digital, mobile-like looking, but if I turn on the log on the iPhone and the camera, in this case this digital crispness, digital over-sharpening is turned off on the iPhone, and it looks more filmic, more natural, more camera-like. Now the video mode on the iPhone is something really special compared to the last year's phones, and on the 15 Pro Max it has a lot to do with the log profile. So in theory, iPhone 15 Pro Max can compete with the Pro setup when filming videos, but what about real life? Let's compare. And wow, this Sony shot looks nice. Just kidding, it's filmed on an iPhone. I know, it's crazy how similar they are. I mounted the phone right next to the camera via the Magic Arm. Granted, the cage has special threads for attaching additional accessories, and this way I can get almost identical framing for comparing them. Another interesting thing to know is that the iPhone's best lens isn't the telephoto one, it is the main wide-angle lens. However, the 5x lens is still giving incredible results. Once again, I'm filming in log on the iPhone and log on the Sony. And to be honest, if you're watching it on a mobile phone right now, you won't be able to tell any difference. Only if I set my framing in a way that I have something in the foreground, in this case it will be easy to tell where is the phone and where is the Pro camera. One thing is for sure, the 5x camera shines in bright environment and well-lit scenarios. And maybe someone in the comment section will disagree with me, but I personally think that video recording on the iPhone is more superior than taking photos. And it is because of the Blackmagic free app that I'm using. You see, I'm able to adjust white balance or even match it to a Pro camera setup, control the exposure of the image, or even film in log but have way smaller file size, and just overall it's a legit pro filmmaking solution unlike the standard camera app. And honestly, it's too bad Apple doesn't offer all this in their built-in camera app unlike the Samsung Galaxy does. By the way, it took me so many days to capture these shots. Just look how different the whole city looks when the sun isn't out. Now what what has to be really nice on the iPhone is the image stabilization. Now it's time to rig the iPhone and test it, so let's go. Just as a bonus of this video, I want to also see how the main camera stabilization will work against another very expensive Sony G Master lens, paired with the latest full-frame Sony camera with incredible image stabilization. So it's around 24mm shot on the iPhone, looks very stable to me. And this video is from Sony, and they look pretty equal to me as well. However, there is one major point to be made here why iPhone might not have the best image stabilization. You see, in order to get the smoothest image possible, you need to use built-in app, which does not allow you to have any manual controls or film and log while having small file size. This is the level of image stabilization on the iPhone 15 Pro Max inside the Blackmagic app, and it's definitely not as smooth as the built-in camera app. You can adjust levels of the stabilization and choose something like cinematic mode level, but it will introduce a delay on the phone screen, and in this case it becomes less usable, especially if you want to use 5x telephoto zoom lens and you try to focus and keep something in the frame. So it's all about your personal preference, though I have to say that the handheld shake is still pretty smooth here, and it makes this setup just perfect for film and dancing or music videos, as you will see further in this episode. Now let's test how they compare when filming vertical videos. We just appreciate how far the technology developed on both phones and pro cameras. Honestly, there is no way I would be able to get a video that smooth without using a gimbal like 2, 3, 4 years ago. And now look at that, this is crazy. Alright, enough playing with the wide-angle lens, we're here to explore the limits of the iPhone 15 Pro Max's 5x telephoto camera. So 70-200 Pro lens is back in the game for this comparison. You'll not guess which one is which until I give you a hint. Well, maybe if we zoom in on the image 200%, you will spot it. And it is the image stabilization. You see, I'm trying to hold the camera as still as possible, but I think iPhone has a little edge in this department. And do not get me wrong, for a full frame setup, to be able to give that level of stabilization is something like landing on the moon in the times where everyone is just riding a horse. But the iPhone is a little bit smoother in my opinion. Though for the stabilization to work well, you do need a ton of light, and do not expect the same results in the low light scenario. And for those who just start filming or want to take photos, this is how you can tell a camera from a phone image. Once again, it's the depth of field. See how a full frame image feels more volumetric, like there is depth in the frame compared to the iPhone, which can look a little bit flat in some scenarios. And it all has to do with the sensor size, and it's not something that will be fixed in the future phones, only if you apply some of the fake blur in the portrait mode, but once again, it's just not the same. Oh, and here's another fun comparison. On the iPhone 15 Pro Max, the 5x tele lens is actually a proper optical zoom, but you can zoom in even closer, up to 15x with digital zoom, whereas on the Pro setup I can get true 200mm optical zoom, which will look way clearer. And as the lighting seems to be in our favor, let's get some more raw photos. And it's crazy how well iPhone takes on this Pro setup. They both look incredible in that lighting, to be honest. I mean, just look at this, even those birds flying in the back, there is so much detail to each shot. Now, as we move closer to the sunset time, it's getting a little bit cooler, and I can't really feel the buttons on the phone, but the cool part about this cage is that I still can have all the access to all the buttons, even with the gloves on. So at this point, I think you'll learn the difference in the image, so let's see how many clips you can guess correctly. Okay, so it's relatively easy now, but the Pro setup has another setting that is not available on the iPhone, and it will make it more difficult for you to guess which one is which. You see, all cameras have the option to close down the aperture on the lens, which will make the depth of field less shallow. So in this case, both the 15 Pro Max and full-frame Sony setup will look almost identical, except for maybe different white balance due to its being set to auto. And I disabled the log too, so this is the standard image you would get out of the iPhone if you just film in the built-in camera app. This is what most of the people would get. So which image do you like better? Let me know down in the comments and see what others choose too. And if you like this video so far and you want to support my channel, make sure to subscribe. Now you see, you do not always have to film in log and lighting conditions like this. After all, the dynamic range isn't a thing to consider when you have a complete overcast and sun already below the horizon. However, the log helps to remove the digital sharpness, which is pretty prominent in the 5x camera sometimes. And for these frames I got super lucky. The auto white balance on both Pro setup and iPhone just look almost identical. And even though it's almost low light conditions, the iPhone still performs better than I expected. And in some shots, the slight vibration from me touching the tripod are more prominent on the full frame Pro setup, while the iPhone looks just silky smooth. And same for low light photography. I would expect that kind of shots from the Pro setup, but seeing what iPhone can do is really surprising. Though I will say that the lack of manual controls make the photo seem cooler than it actually is. In real life, there was a little bit of purplish hue from the sunset, and the Sony camera captures just that, while auto white balance on the iPhone camera does not represent true colors really. But after all, it's a raw photo I'm taking, so it's a really easy fix. I think it's amazing results considering how small the phone is compared to the Pro telephoto zoom setup. And if you take into account that you can attach additional accessories in this case, the phone becomes really awesome tool that allow you to even make some music or dance videos. And in this case, the image will be really close to a Pro camera. What I want to say is, figuring out which one is better, the iPhone 15 Pro Max or the Sony camera, really boils down to what suits you better. The iPhone is super handy with cool features for quick on-the-go stuff. It's like having a filmmaking Swiss Army camera always in your pocket. On the flip side, the Sony is more like the Seasoned Pro, offering loads of control and top-notch image quality. There's no clear winner here as both cameras have their own advantages, and it's more about seeing how impressive the new technology gets every year. So whether you choose in the smartphone simplicity or craving the fine-tuned power of a bigger camera, go with what fits your style. And as always, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next crazy video on the Google Pixel 8 Pro. Until next time, bye bye.